Welcome to another Crosslink workshop. This is the Crosslink FeatureNet workshop number two. Last year we were prototyping, and so we would just set up a network temporarily for each workshop. Now we've inaugurated the Crosslink FeatureNet, and so our goal is to keep that up and running uh, through multiple workshops, and then occasionally we might need to restart it or shift it as we go, as we learn things when we have engineering reasons to do so. But we also want to explore a lot, keeping it running for a long time and learning as much as possible with participation from users. So that's where we're at. So last workshop we launched the network, and this is the first workshop since then. um, and then, in addition to plenty of design and software improvements and infrastructure improvements and so forth, a big piece of this workshop is that we're going to do the first round of mainnet ZEC rewards. And so we'll be talking about that. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So also, we wanted this one to be a little bit more conversational because the previous ones were a little more presentation oriented. And so we wanted to also get more participants up on the stage to um, share ideas, experiences, comments, questions. Uh, and then also, one last request before I hand it off is if this is your first time at a Crosslink workshop, let us know in the chats. And if it's not your first time, say hi in the chat because we want to start tracking um, who keeps showing up and if they like it, versus how many new folks are coming. And we're hoping to get both um, veterans and newcomers a good mix each workshop. So thanks. Yeah, and again, if it's your first time, yes, okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to hand it off to Andrew to describe what's been going on, where we're at, and also how the um, ZEC rewards scanning tool and process works.
Great. Thanks, Kate. We're getting okay, that's cool. Thank you very much. And so we've previously been calling these seasons. I'm not sure if that's going to continue, but for now we get to do a previously on the CETA's testnet featurenet. And so for people who were here on the last workshop, you'll have noticed some pretty major differences since then, in how the GUI works, um, how the network behaves, and the different things you can inspect about the network. So we're going to cover a few of those, go over some of the changes that we've made, and then, yeah, talk about how you can get paid if you have been part of the network so far, as well as uh, hope, hopefully talk a little bit about some of the additional tools that have been made by the community, specifically CipherScan and CTAS. Although we shall see how we go with time, I think. So if you were here for the last workshop, you'll know the first thing that happened, or the most apparent thing from most apparent issue from last time, was that we had an unbounded generation of blocks. So we were mining with a hard cap at the lowest possible difficulty, and with everyone online, we were getting kind of a block production so fast that the network couldn't handle it. And this actually had two causes, which is kind of interesting. One of them was we had, for testing reasons, hard coded this cap, and in previous workshops that hadn't been an issue. But we'd increased the sync speed, and so everyone was mining on the same chains, and we were getting this additional accumulation of work that it was too much to handle. The other reason was that we were operating on a testnet, with the testnet Genesis, and the testnet Genesis is dated to 2016, I believe. And actually, if I share my screen, 1 second, I can actually show that because as part of working out why things were going wrong, we added a little bit more information about um, the work that was being done per block and when the block was generated. So if we go all the way back to the beginning, using the new sliders that Giovanni's added since joining the team, we can see the date on this first block is October 2016, and then it. Uh, Sam, do you want to explain a little bit about um, why it wasn't updating for the subsequent blocks?
Yeah, so there is a consensus rule about how far apart timestamps can be on blocks. That does not activate until about block, I want to say 500,000 or something. But I think normal Zcash testnets are started with Zcashd normally, or historically. And we were doing this with Zebra. And so Zebra, in fact, was enforcing this constraint all the time. And so we basically had, you know, the next block would be generated with a stamp maximally allowed into the future from 2016, according to this rule, still in 2016. Because they appear to be very far apart, the difficulty adjustment algorithm would keep trying to go downwards. But of course, it's already at the minimum difficulty. So disabling that rule again, no consensus rule change, just below this 500,000. It doesn't apply the rule on consensus. So the Zebra internal miner doesn't do that either now in our build. And so if Andrew shows on his screen there, I believe it's the first block afterwards is in current year 2026.
Yes.
So yeah,
That's
there's
right.
an immediate jump, and then of course after that the difficulty just works properly.
And we can see if we look here, these first couple of blocks start at pretty low difficulty. A higher work value means higher difficulty. So they start at 0x20, and then as we get a little bit higher, they start to adjust upwards. So we're kind of getting to 0x4, and the more people come online, the higher that gets.
Yeah.
I guess let's just take a step back, make sure that everyone's on the same page with regard to what Crosslink is, now that we have our nice interactive diagram up here of the current chain. So I've been pointing at these cyan blocks on the left here. Sam, can you explain a little bit about what these are?
Well, yes. So the cyan blocks are the normal proof of work blocks, in Zcash that we currently have in mainnet. And then they, of course, link to the previous proof of work block with the cyan link. The vertical cyan link, I should say. And these contain all the transactions, the ledger logic, who has what money, etc. is all determined by these cyan blocks.
And so that's pretty much the same as how it runs normally, right?
Exactly.
And then what about these blocks on the right? What's happening here?
Well, so yes, this is our sort of parallel BFT or sort of proof of stake chain that runs, and these blocks are very small because they are in a sense just the header or just the sort of decision infrastructure for the actual BFT consensus. And
I like to not call them blocks though, just because
Yeah,
it gets
yeah,
really confusing that there's two kinds.
yes, exactly. So we have this scheme, we're calling them certificates instead. And similarly to proof of work, each certificate links back to the previous certificate by hash. But then, of course, it also is, in our case, finalizing the proof of work chain. And so there are these cyan pointers. If you zoom in, I believe those are actually arrows, right? Very small arrows.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah. So these essentially point to a candidate finalization block. If I remember the terminology correct, Andrew, you can correct me otherwise. They point to a finalization candidate, and then bundled in the block or bundled in the certificate is an array of, in our case, 3 headers. So we have proof of the proof of work for that block and subsequent blocks that, even though they don't go into the main chain, it means that when the block is finalized, there's provably was already evidence that there was already a certain amount of block confirmations on top of the thing being finalized at that point in time when the certificate was created.
And interestingly, and perhaps slightly unintuitively, not all of those blocks have to end up being on the best chain. And so we can see an example here of where one of them is off on the side. So we have all these 3 blocks are the ones that are referenced by this certificate, and only 2 of them actually end up on the best chain.
Yes, indeed. And then we have the red links going back the other direction, which we don't actually do that much work with currently, but will be doing soon. Which is, these are, in order for there to be any proof of stake or for there to be any funds at stake, we need to have the proof of work chain needs to observe that the proof of stake chain of certificates is occurring and is happening. And so there are some rules by which, so each proof of work block points at a certificate that is the most recently observed certificate from the perspective of that block. And then that certificate can move forward. And that's basically how stuff like, finalizers don't get paid on the proof of work chain until a certificate or several certificates has actually happened and there's been an advance of finality. This is an example of one such rule construction you could do with this information.
And that will be coming, but the current rules for payout are slightly simpler as we've been working through the various features that we need to implement. Okay, so proof of stake. So we on the right here, there's this notion of a finalizer. Normally we hear about validators in proof of stake. So what are these finalizers?
Well, the reason it's called a finalizer is because I guess it's on other blockchains, it's kind of normalized to build infrastructure that doesn't actually check the blockchain. It just sort of trusts publicly available data from block explorers, etc. But the reason it's called a finalizer is because we emphasize the fact that every so-called full node is validating all the data on the blockchain, right? And so this sort of validation is, of course, performed persistently everywhere, almost. And there's and the specific role that these BFT nodes have in Crosslink is only to finalize blocks. They don't collect transactions, they don't order transactions, etc. The miners still do that in this design. So they perform one function, and that is finalizing the proof of work chain.
Great, thank you. So, we've mentioned stake. We can see on this list on the right that we have a bunch of lists of random numbers, and these are a very particular set of random numbers, which in this case correspond to a finalizer identity. And then to the right of each of those is a value in CTAS, the testnet equivalent of ZEC. So, how, like, where does this number come from? Does each finalizer just have to, when they become a finalizer, do they set their own stake value?
Well, I mean, for there to be something at stake, they have to show up with funds to begin with. And so they create staking transactions on the proof of work chain where they take their funds and they lock them up. But there's an additional wrinkle here where, because we want to prevent liquid staking tokens and the like in the design, or even just custodial delegation, which is I want to stake, but I don't want to be a finalizer myself. So I want to actually outsource this service to somebody else. And so the design is that is actually always what's happening. So if you on your own wanted to become a finalizer, you delegate some stake by creating a staking bond. You delegate to yourself, and that will, add band of value to you. But you could equally do it to somebody else. And then you can even, once you've created this bond, you can retarget it around in order to, if you want to make updated decisions about who you trust to run this thing.
And Zcash is obviously a very privacy-focused chain, and we've had to make a couple of design decisions around that to try and minimize the amount of information being leaked as you're staking to people. So one of those is when you try and stake to someone, we've quantized the amounts that you can stake to powers of 10. And this is to basically keep things as indistinguishable as possible. The other is we had this notion of a staking window. And a simple way to think of this is every week there is one day where people get to do all of their staking actions. So whether that be staking to a new person or starting to unstake from people. And that is to, again, concentrate all of the actions into the same place to try and reduce the possibility of timing attacks between the different transactions. Or timing analysis, I should say. There's an exception to that, though, which is retargeting. So say if I am if I have staked to this finalizer here, and I decide that I think they're being sorry, my alarm's going off. There we go. I think that they are being irresponsible as a finalizer, then at any time at all, I can restake to other people, because we want that. It's very important that is that people can be as responsive as possible with their where the stake is delegated.
Yes.
So a new feature that we have added since the last workshop is this ability to try and see which finalizers are online. And that
very cool.
that was in response to a particular event that we've had while running the network. Sam, do you want to fill us in a bit more on that event?
Well, so without naming names or naming generalities, we had a very, very inspiring contributor and participant to the testnet who showed up and was diligently mining and staking to himself, mining and staking to himself. And one of the problems with the testnet, especially early, is that when this gets deployed on mainnet, right, there's a whole ZEC economy to get liquidity from. But for staking, but on the early testnet, all there's no CTAS in circulation. Most of it is coming out of new blocks. But blocks have a big value in relation to the CTAS in circulation. So if you just show up and you're a diligent miner and you mine most of the blocks, well, you could get a big chunk of the supply actually. And then people have nothing to do on the network other than stake. So of course you stake to yourself and you stake to yourself. And this guy then, diligently worked his way up to overtake our nodes and climb all the way up to number one biggest finalizer. And then, I guess a week went by or something, and he got bored and he left, seemingly. And so, since then, actually, we had a BFT stall, and then we had a BFT resume later when enough of the small players came online with our servers. And what's happened to your screen, Andrew?
Don't know. We've probably hit minor UI bug here. It's
So
here we go.
anyway, the conclusion is that we wanted to just provide more insight into this situation because, of course, the we don't believe that we believe that accurate slashing requires intelligence, but you can't just have intelligence if you can't see anything. So we wanted to provide the users of the network because we also want to sort of war game out this real scenario so that we're prepared should it actually happen on any real network. And so we wanted to provide forensic tools for, okay, what is happening, who is online, who has voted, etc. So, why don't you go through those, Andrew, these early stats we added?
Yeah, sure thing. So, unfortunately, it's not a black and white thing whether someone is being live and being active. So the idea is to add or provide multiple pieces of information, and I think in the long term, this probably has to be a sort of time series of information about who is online, how much, what activity they're doing in the network, that kind of thing. And so there's two initial things that we've added as effectively filters for what we're considering to be online finalizers. So if I untick this one, we'll see that everyone is currently online. I have no requirement at all. If you're a finalizer, you're an online finalizer. The most basic thing that we have is, have you voted at the height that we're trying to finalize? And that kind of interestingly actually knocks out quite a few people. So it puts us at 63.96% of the total available stake. And if you're familiar with proof of stake, you'll know that you basically need 2/3 of the stake, just over 2/3, in order to have a successful vote. Although they all have to agree, so just having 2/3 of the people voting doesn't necessarily say that you will pass on the vote. Anyhow,
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
okay. We should say that under the design conditions of, say, the Tendermint paper, having 67% would be enough. Yeah, but that assumes like there wasn't data corruption or like somebody went offline and then had to resync and lost some data and then maybe voted differently or something. There are nuances that we've found when running this, especially in this sort of test form where crashes happen.
indeed. Um,
And we should say that it's 67% honest and live, right? Because in BFT, you're resistant to up to 1/3 faulty nodes or faulty voting power, but faulty includes not being there. So sure, we can have some people that are online but who are malicious, right? So we need 2/3 honest, completely honest and online nodes.
um, so part of what we added this, as a basic question, have you voted this height? Given that this height has been available for now, multiple weeks, the fact that you haven't voted kind of suggests that you are
Negligent.
not like around at all.
Or maybe some accident happened. We all have lives, so it's a hard question. What should be done for this? I'm saying, and it's easy to see that obviously that is why there is no progression and things are stuck.
But there's this other question. So it's sort of a little bit in the weeds, but Tendermint actually involves multiple stages of voting. So this is kind of not quite sufficient to fully determine that someone is being an honest actor. If they were being malicious, they could have voted in the first round and then completely abstained from voting in the second round. We have a kind of
Or
Yep.
they can vote they can in fact submit malicious votes that don't contribute to things progressing, but would get counted by this filter because it's hard to. There are completely plausible malicious votes that look fine.
Indeed. And I think there's a kind of interesting UX question here because there are a few things that we can do that are kind of basic sanity checks on whether people are being lazy as opposed to malicious, or kind of negligent as opposed to malicious. But once you get people knowing what the UI system is and they're being malicious, there are ways that they can work around it. And so actually detecting those requires intelligence, as we've mentioned. There's a kind of detailed view that is available from this this button here. We can copy that to a clipboard and paste that. And this is just in a JSON form. A couple of the people working on the block explorer has asked for this for pasting into an LLM to get a bit more, have some non-human intelligence working on who's being well behaved. And this has a little bit more information that is visible in the UI, but not a huge amount. The other we added is this just in a very simple network sense. Have I been connected to this person? Like, are they live right now? And if we look through, we can see kind of I think this is just taking a sec to update. We get this running every so often.
And just for context for anyone who's new, when we say BFT stall, basically the chain continues on, miners are still mining, and so the proof of work blocks keep going. But right now, the finalizers have stopped finalizing because there's not enough finalizers to come to an agreement, because less than 67% supermajority of the stake is delegated to finalizers who are active and online and participating and making votes and agree.
That's good clarification. And again,
Did I see somebody come flip to offline and then flip back to online? Like
this
F8-7.
This status gets kind of updated in the background, and it's chugging a little bit as Tokyo schedules its tasks. And network connectivity is like, again, it's not quite a perfect proxy because people can be online, right, and not doing things, or they can be, in which case they look online but they're not. It's a false positive. But then there's also the false negative case of they are in actual terms they're online, but maybe their firewall doesn't let them connect to you directly or something. And in that case, currently we show that as offline. Dismad asks, do all of the proof of work heights match for all finalizers? Do you mean are they all on the same chain? So there's no requirement that they are all on the same chain necessarily. They will basically try to make progress about the part of the chain that they agree on. Or someone will propose, I suggest that we make this final. And if enough of the finalizers agree that this is on their best chain, then and it satisfies all the other rules, then they will agree that it's final and add it as the new.
That is another reason you might get a stall in a system like this, is that people are honest, but they've ended up on different, like drastically different proof of work chains, which is something we've noticed on this network, or on this test net, because we've redone. We've been running a very early prototype version of our replacement block sync that runs over UDP and has a hole punching and stuff to better support home users with that configuration and setup. But among other things. But that is led to, yes, if you have this, some of the finalizers took one proof of work chain and some took another, then they're obviously not being tested here to make progress at a certain point. There was one more thing. Oh, yes, I was going to say right now as well, it would be nice, I think, to have statistics where at least if we are connected to finalizers, we could see a self-report from them about their worldview, like what the proof of work chain is. But currently, it's something we could do. Currently, the networking is sort of split. It's sort of duplicated twice because we were using a library implementation of Tendermint. Then we decided to make our own. And when we did so, we developed it separately. And then we replace that integration. There are historical reasons
Of course,
why.
by default, this follows the unbreakable law of Conway's law, and
Yes, exactly.
things
We-
that are
it's
separated by
Conway's law.
organization ended up splitting apart.
Yes, so we have some Conway's law to deal with and sort of merge these two networking stacks. Because currently we run parallel systems with this sort of a BFT universe. You get a BFT socket and you talk to people on BFT network, and then there's a separate system for the linear proof of work.
Can I jump
yeah.
in?
Yes, go
Oh, I noticed Pair 1298 asking, after this unfortunate event, how will Zcash better protect itself? What are the main updates for protection? And I wanted to respond super high level and then ask if other people have things to add. But at a high level, there are two categories of things going on the mainnet. So one is the BFT stall, and that is something that can happen with the Crosslink design, and it's by design because the stall means that the finalizers aren't able to agree on what the next proof of work block is that should be final. And so that means there could be all sorts of bad reasons that could be happening. And we want to make sure anyone who needs to guarantee that a transaction is final has that guarantee. So this is like failing. It's called fail safe, right? So when it fails, safety is what is prioritized instead of availability, which is what normal proof of work does. So in normal proof of work, if there's something strange or fishy going on with the network or mining, you will still get new blocks and your transaction will still get into blocks. So it's available. But now there's a risk of a really long rollback. And so it's sort of the other trade-off. It's the flip side of the coin. So, so that's one category. The other category is there are a bunch of networking and design issues in Zebra and things around that are affecting how well proof of work is working just by itself. So how well syncing works, what happens if there's long proof of work forks, and those things already affect current mainnet. It's just that we don't see them because of the mining capacity, and so the final piece is that I want to say is just our approach has been, instead of just restarting the network and hoping it doesn't fall over again, we're keeping the network up in this state and trying to harden everything. And some of that is about Crosslink. Some of that is actually about mainnet. Okay. That was my response, but I think there's, other people are likely to have more.
I just wanted to add that and this is only my personal opinion, which is my personal opinion is that for real economic transactions, a live but not safe or a live but not final network is almost useless, because it's like, yes, I can connect to a network and get some data back, but if I don't know that it's real, I can't use it. It's useless to me. I can't actually sell somebody a sandwich using
Well,
this thing if I don't know that, it's actually the real chain, for example.
the only place in which it becomes useful is for very sophisticated people who have a very sophisticated understanding of this, who are willing to take the risk that in the eventual canonical chain they don't actually get paid for the thing. So maybe for a low price thing like a sandwich, you like increase your prices by 5% and to account for the occasional time that your your payment didn't go through, but on the plus side, you get to provide your customers with a very fast user experience where they pay you. You see the transaction in the mempool or in unfinalized blocks, and then you let them have the thing without having waited for full finalization. But that's like the number of people who understand that properly and who can make a wise decision about it are relatively not most lay people do not have that understanding or look
I
to
think they're all
for-
in this chat right now. The people that understand that.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Just before we get too much further, I wanted to mention previously on these workshops, we've been very focused on kind of getting people onboarded, getting people using the software, and I think with the current status, well, first of all, you can go to this link if you would like to download the latest version of the node and get on for testnet. We have it for binaries for a bunch of different platforms. There's also the mobile app that is available. If someone can provide the link to that, that'd be very helpful. We're not focusing on that today, in part because if you have us in here already, then you won't be able to sync up to the current height in time for the rest, like to actually do anything inside this workshop. And so we have instructions. There are videos from previous workshops where once you download it, you can have a look to see how to use the UI. Sorry, minor interjection. I just wanted to make sure that was out there. I guess back on the finalizer question. So we have the situation where a large amount of the stake is currently offline and seems to be like it will be offline for kind of indefinitely. And so the next thing that we are working on is a tool to allow users to do this social slashing that we've mentioned. And that will, there's still some details to be worked out on that. But the kind of general form of that is going to be kind of a config file that lets you specify a finalizer who should be slashed, and all of the stakers who have staked to that finalizer within some height range that may be specifiable will lose their funds. So there's going to be some interesting questions on forums and chats, I'm sure, about exactly who that should be and how that should take place. There are a few details to kind of try and be targeted and, not have splash damage on people who weren't, were not at fault. But to some extent, if one has been staking to a negligent finalizer, then you're being a negligent staker.
That is, in fact, that was the point of doing consensus, by having people have money at stake, right?
Yeah.
So sort of the backside of the mechanism.
It shouldn't just be considered, oh, I get to put money here and then I earn some percentage of my money. Like, there is actually a task that you are being paid to do.
These are not federal T-bills, right? AAA rated. You just park your money here, and then nothing happens to them except they get bigger for free. That's not how this works.
And so, yeah, we're going to be releasing this tool sometime soon. And the effect of it will be at the height specified in this config file, there is effectively a hard fork that occurs.
Yes. So
And-
part of the goal is to take this ability that we as developers would already have, of doing some kind of hard fork special rule to do something special, and instead we want to make it possible that to have users can do this in sort of a fixed function form. So both that simplifies the software, and because developers shouldn't be the only people who can make decisions about this thing. This is actually for the users, for the community to decide upon.
And then the kind of working model of this is that it's a hard fork in a similar sense to when we do a network upgrade. That is also a hard fork. So that's kind of the severity that we're thinking of here. Okay. Let's see. Are there any?
Which I guess, Zcaches at this point are not strangers to emergency hard forks to change rules, in a very, very short notice. Thanks to recent events.
I also want to
Uh,
quickly mention, Zuko points out in chat that Crosslink adds this safety mechanism, but it does not. Proof of work continues, regardless,
is.
and so the liveness of proof of work is not affected.
Yeah, should we bring on people who are not us if we're...
I think
Well,
there's there's maybe two quick more things. I think as to go over. I'd have a 1 minute request from our guest. So the first is, if you get on and you want to make as we said, there have been some forks in the network, and so people are on different side chains currently, and it's if you want to make sure that you end up on a specific chain, maybe the CTAS one or the one visible through CipherScan, then we have an option in our config to let you do this. And if I close this, let's zoom in, and we can just... so if you run your executable, you can run it with generate, and it will output a default config for you. And then in
This improved, just for those who've been in this, the CLI config situation has been much improved now. It is kind of normal. So this actually just works now.
it now basically behaves as normal Zebra's config does, but with different defaults. Whereas previously you had to do this slight dance with do not manipulate config and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we have this state menu. Let me just pipe this to a file, my config.toml, and then let's open up my config.toml. And if we find, if we find the state section here, we can add a new item, which is the hash that we want to make sure we sync to. And in fact, we don't actually need all of the rest of the config. If we just want defaults for everything and we want to make very clear to ourselves that nothing else has been changed, we could delete all of this and just have this, and everything else will be set to a default. And the instructions for this are on the GitHub release page if you want a reference. The other thing to mention before we bring our guest on is that this is an incentivized feature network. And we have come to the end of the first period. And so people who have participated will be getting paid. And
How
uh,
do you do this, Andrew?
that is an excellent question. If I have already closed my program, so let's
So how do they do this, and
let's
how do
again.
they get paid? Which is
So
massive. Well,
they will get paid in relation to basically how much they have participated on the network, as defined by how much of the issuance they received. So this is whether they mined blocks or whether they received rewards for staking. And this will take a sec to reload. Actually, no. So if you have been participating in the network and you would like to receive some rewards, please send to Jason your UFVK for the feature net, which I'll show you how to get from the desktop in app in a sec, and also the mainnet, not feature net, mainnet address for your address for a real Zach wallet, and you will be sent
It's one
in proportion to
one to
the
be judged by, and one to, actually receive the money out on.
So if you are on the desktop, you can do this through this little cog icon here. Click user, click copy viewing key. And you can see that you will be able to see that it is a test network viewing key as opposed to your mainnet viewing key. Because if you paste that somewhere, one sec, it has this uView test prefix. Whereas I believe the mainnet one will just be uView without the test. So that should be sent to Jason McGee on, as he says, on Signal on the forum. I think there is a similar menu on, I know there's a similar menu on the mobile Crosslink app to find the UFVK there. So I think, and so we will be scanning the chain up to about height 131,000, which is a couple of days ago. And because finality is stalled, there's kind of had to be an executive decision about which chain is canonical. And up to that point, the CTAS block explorer and the CipherScan block explorer both agreed. And so this seems like a good place to call the official end of season 1. I think with that, if ZK NDR, ND3R, or however you would like to pronounce your name, if you'd like to come up on stage and we can
Yes.
have a little chat. So first of all, how should we be pronouncing your name?
Oh, Scander or Zcander. Scander, the easiest.
Scander. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. If I stop sharing my screen,
And I'll try to share mine. Okay, I'm now able to share mine. I'll share.
You're unable to share.
No, I am.
Okay,
It should
great,
come
yeah.
through now.
Let's see. Looks like loading.
The page of.
Brilliant, thank you. So both Gander and Kenback have made Crosslink compatible block explorers, which is fantastic. And they both kind of highlight a bunch of different features as well as just showing transactions and showing information about the blocks.
Exactly.
Yeah, standard. Is there maybe give us a little tour of some of the main features as you see it?
Yes, let me just give you a brief walkthrough. And then this actually just came back dropped right before we started. So if all of us who've been part of this in the last run a node on Crosslink, we know the script.
sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if it's just me, but your voice is dropping out a bit.
70.
Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, hello.
Yes.
That's
we heard you
a little better.
before. I think
Yeah.
noise.
It's the noise gate.
You could try to be loud as a short.
Yes, okay. I'll try. Raise my. Oh yeah, the last 6 weeks have made it really interesting. To run a node and not really know what's gonna happen in the next minute. Or getting the odd. Right now I'm used to getting the messages to be stuck again fairly regularly. And this is kind of what motivated CTAS, I guess. What we want to do here is
Sorry, you're still dropping a little bit. Maybe you could try getting closer to your mic, or you could turn off Discord's noise suppression.
So yeah, you sound fine when your voice is coming through.
is that better? Hello?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let me. I'm doing this on one screen in rural Thailand, so bear with me. Sorry, I'm trying to get CTAS back under my. Okay, here we are. So, basically, if you're running a node, and in this context, what you want to know right away is if you're on the right branch, and whether the branch is final or not. I think the finality issue has been settled since week 1, and since then it's been, am I on the right branch? So let me just perhaps demonstrate the pièce de résistance with CTAS, and that is the diagnose functionality, where you can see. I mean, it's it tells you right away the status of the blockchain without leaking any of your information. So this is all local. It does not leak anything. So this is what you do basically to find out how your node is doing. Very easy, idiot proof, pretty much. Copy the command, which is basically this one. I'm just gonna dump it. This is what it looks like. I'm just gonna dump it in my terminal window.
For what it's worth, we can't see your terminal window, but I assume it's coming back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll be right. Let me just. Okay, here we are. Sorry. So let me do this again. So I'm just gonna pick up the command here, dump it in my terminal window here on the node, and I'm sorry.
I think
node is back down.
Screen shared.
Yeah.
I think your screen.
Yeah, I screen shared the I did not screen share the terminal window. Let me screen share it here. It's just that I'm losing it again. I'm sorry, this is.
If you don't have any private information, you could be sharing.
No, there's no private information on it. I will share it right away. It's this PowerShell window. Okay. And
Nope, we see this.
okay, so I was trying to get back on to let me just. Sorry, my machine is not responding at all. Okay.
There's always demo demons as soon as you want to share things with people.
Sorry.
There are always these demo demons. They appear.
Okay, and I'm just gonna go and.
So you've SSH'd into the
Into
server that has
my
your
server,
node.
into my node, and then I'm pasting. And I'm sorry, I'm not able to. The server's down. I'm not able to SSH in. I'm gonna. I will tape this demo and send you a link for it.
Okay, great. I mean, maybe let's just talk through what it would be doing.
Uh-huh.
So, as I understand it, it's the main thing this is doing is requesting what hash the server has at a bunch of different bytes.
Exactly. And then it would be, and then it would return a diagnosis, and I'm trying to find a screenshot to share here of an earlier diagnosis that I had just before this session. Um, I will share it with you now. Apologies to I'm wasting everybody's time. I didn't I don't want to put
Yep.
you through this.
You're a good
I will put this all on a video and share it with you.
just while we figure stuff out in the background. I mentioned the payouts for people. There is in fact a deadline to get the information through JSON, and that deadline is next week, the 17th of June at 11:59 p.m. UTC. So basically within a week, get those details to Jason, and we will do the required scanning following that and get payments out fairly shortly after.
This is what a diagnosis window looks like. So basically, what you see on the left side is basically what I
Oh, I
put
just
in.
I muted PK near because of the echo. Just so you know.
That's cool, but he was right in the middle of talking.
Oh, it only applies to me? Whoops. Okay, sorry.
Am I okay now?
Yeah, sorry about
Yeah. So basically, and then what it renders on the right hand side is the diagnosis, and here is a screenshot of the top end of that diagnosis. Basically, issuing the operator with the next action gate, basically. So whether and that is built on the data points that it's gathering just before.
When you say action gate, could you elaborate a bit on what you mean by that?
In this instance, for example, it's for the miner, assuming it is somebody who would be interested in mining, or the operator, the mining would be off, or because the finality is off. And actually, in this instance, as you can see, our branch is 4 out of 5. The only failure gate here is the failure of finality, basically.
Right. Okay.
Mm, mm,
Okay.
mm. So yeah.
So, thanks. Are we able to see some of the other functionality of CTAS?
Yes, I will film a full video as soon as it's back up early tomorrow morning, and I will post it.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. I think unfortunately Ken back was busy for this time slot, and so isn't able to do a cipher scan overview. But if you haven't seen it already, we can link to that. You can have a play around with that as well. And I believe the CTAS Explorer has now got the it's upgraded its URL recently to be ctas.cache.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, well, we are at the top of the hour. And kind of the floor is open a little bit. If anyone has anything that they would like to ask about or like to discuss, then yeah, please feel free to either put it in the chat or come on stage and we'll have a chat.
Should we lightning round quickly just briefly mention some of the things that happened during the time since the last workshop? We've had these amazing block explorers be produced from the community. These weren't our this happened organically, and we're very grateful for that. There were a couple we call them evil blocks. That was fun, some fun, but minor consensus bugs, and we shipped some upgrades on that. There were some staking actions that that got in off a staking day, like a little bit delayed. We fixed that. That's because of a fun mempool caching bug we can get into. There's another block at like 35,000 that had a brief issue as well that we're looking into. Did we mention GPU mining already?
No, not yet. So, yeah, we had our. I was trying to go back through the chat and see who the first GPU miner was, which was pretty cool to see because we had not tested that at all beforehand. It wasn't a supported feature, but I think the first person was Tom Z on April the 18th, getting GPU mining working. So if you can have a claim to GPU mining before that, then let us know. But that was very cool to see. We also previously had this wall of death issue, which is kind of fun, where because Zebra has this expectation that once you have 100 blocks, we can't really be dealing with any reorgs past that point. So for a little while, our the app was running in a mode where if a BFT block was not created within 100 blocks, there would be kind of a minor corruption. Not the data got broken, but just that there was kind of a mismatch between the two sets of data, and if you shut down and restarted at that point, you would get this this inability to continue. So we had a few fun moments with that, as we had BFT stalling for kind of 90 blocks at a time before continuing. But then we've since just improved the software, so that's not an issue
Fixed the
anymore.
bugs. Yeah.
Indeed.
It's not like it wasn't a known bug either. It was just that it had not been prioritized because previously we've had other things preventing successful network operation. So, that's a lesson, I guess. Don't cut corners because you will end up not going back and revisiting the code in time.
Sid Matt asks, what is the call to action for participants? I would say one of them is submit your info for the payouts.
Yes.
With the deadline.
The next thing to say is that this chain is continuing for the next 6 weeks or so, at least.
Yes.
And so, continue using the chain, continue mining, continue staking. Hopefully we will have this walking tool out soon to
Yes,
to
we'll
modify it.
discuss
But
most
we're
of
not in a
what you want to
we're not in a complete reset. That is a good point. Yes. So I've kind of briefly described the design of the tool, but maybe start to have the discussions about how you would like to decide which finalizer stake gets slashed. If you indeed want any, that's again your decision.
Yeah, it's up to the community to decide.
Wait,
If
their
the
decision and their responsibility.
I guess additionally to that end, if there are specific finalizer liveness diagnostics that you would like to see, then that to kind of help you make that decision, then please let us know about that as well.
let us know in the signal. That's one of the highest bandwidth channels for us, is the Crosslink updates channel.
Yeah, any other questions around either this past season, the upcoming 6 weeks, or anything we've discussed today?
And I guess it's
I guess it is
Oh.
maybe worth noting going forwards that the we need to publish exactly what height the hash of the block that we are counting that we're doing the accounting for, that we're doing the scanning of UFVK attribution, because that will probably be a canonical point going forwards into the next season, and so there's not much point in mining on chains that do not have that as a prefix. But that'll be announced very shortly. Any final words from you, Nate?
Oh, I saw Disman had a good question. What is the call to action? So one is submit your viewing key, your feature net viewing key, and your main net exec address, and please don't mix those up. To receive rewards. The other is try out the new software, check out the infrastructure, the scanner that Zcainator showed, and I think those are the main ones. Invite more folks to future workshops. Any other calls to action?
If you haven't tried out the software already, then have a look at some of the video tutorials and have a play with the wallet.
Yep. And if you still need help with stuff or you run into snags, please speak up. Join the Signal group, which is pretty active with people sorting things out. Yeah. And then stay tuned for posts on the forum or on our Shielded Labs socials about the rewards specifics. Specifically how to do it, how to recognize your viewing key, things like that.
And once again, just to repeat, there is a 1-week deadline for getting these in. So the 17th, the end of the 17th in UTC. Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you all very much for joining.
Yeah.
And we will see you on the forums, on the chat, and in the next workshop. Take care, everyone.
For everybody, happy Wednesday.
Sure.
Happy Wednesday.